hold them. Usually the first impulse of a paperweight is to look into it and get lost in it. But they're so lifelike, and there's something about their energy that people are a little more wary of the bee ones. And I think it also brings in another layer of complexity. It's not just the benign qualities of nature, but there's more complexity there. There's something possibly dangerous and unknown and unpredictable, as there is in life. This is a slide you might have seen earlier in Paul's earlier presentation, just showing strengthening some of the elements and preparing them for encasement. Another technique that Paul has pioneered quietly and on his own and shares with people, but nobody really does it quite like him. And so important to the process is realizing that lifelike, that in a moment you're not at all bothered. If the slightest thing were wrong with a piece, especially with the magnification of the encasement, it would lose its magic, and it never does in Paul's work that he shows. This is a piece that I just really love. It's so rich and so full of detail and life and intensity. It's called Summer Memories from 2009. It's 3 3/4 inches tall, in diameter rather. And it's lush, it's full of fertility, and I think it embodies a lot of Paul's energy, Paul's incredible powerful generosity, but also his drive and his knowledge of nature, and it says memories. I think it also has to do with that universal connection that we all have with nature and our own individual associations with nature. I thought it was really interesting that Paul had it, right when I started at the magazine in 2004, there was this major exhibition at the Museum of Arts and Design of an individual artist working with glass. And it was not Marvin Lepofsky or some of these other very well-known people who got out early in studio glass and really sort of trumpeted their successes. It was Paul Stankert who had this exhibition of these individual paperweights, these very personal, highly symbolic and poetic, but also highly natural and in a tradition of American botanical art that I found very, very compelling, that this was the work that could speak widely for glass and for art in general, but this is the work that could get a showcase like this in New York City in 2004. It wasn't the abstract expressionist type glass that has had its day and continues to get a lot of attention at SOFA and major exhibitions, and as collectors are giving gifts of their collections to museums. But Paul's work had this special showcase, and it did through the pursuit of excellence, as he talks about, as well as through the pursuit of an individual vision, one that has resonance and universality, one in which the poetry and the expression is not abstract. It's in the truth to nature and the feeling that went into creating these highly animated works. Now, Paul does not only do any one specific work. Here he was part of a group exhibition at Heller Gallery in 2002. Artists were asked to respond to 2001 and the World Trade Center attacks. This is Paul's response, working within the metaphor that he, with the orb form that he's so highly accomplished at, and taking it into new territory, taking his mask forms and some earth behind them, as well as the glass, which was rendered in glass around a base of wood. That's in 2002. And we just see that this is somebody who's not content to do the same thing and not afraid to push into new territory. We have here a rose bouquet with a honeybee, yellow flowers, pink tea, rose, blueberries, and mask. Just all these elements coming together in a tall form, 5.5 inches tall. Again, no fear of combining. In the root system, we see a mask embedded. We see the explorations of, as Paul puts it, fecundity, or the power of the natural life cycles and the potency that's within them that is so universal. And one of the reasons why we go take walks in the woods and bring flowers into our homes and tend gardens, because of the extreme power of those universal cycles. But Paul has found ways of bringing nuance and shade and danger and lack of clarity and mystery to it, through a variety of ways, including the root systems, including the masks, including the insects, including ants and bees, and in these interesting compositions. This is his book, which he mentioned earlier. I wanted to mention also that I learned a lot about Paul reading the book, about his bracing honesty, about his ability to share, and not shying away from the fact that writing a book for him, if you read his book, you learn about his own issues of struggling with a learning disability and triumphing over it with the help of friends and through his artwork. And it was an inspiring book, and one I would really encourage people to read and to understand more about Paul, and his incredible generosity of sharing one's life experience and one's story from what one can relate to, what one can take away from it, and what one can learn about flameworking and the world of glass and the world of art in general. So finally, I wanted to show once more that very first attempt at the daisy on the left, which we see from 1969, when Paul was there working at a hand torch with no real idea of what he was doing, inspired by the Millville rose, but immediately taking it to another flower, in this case the daisy, and creating this, this noble attempt. And on the right, we have the Homage to Daisies from 2009. This is only last year, but it's cloistered, it has the orb, it has the dragonfly, a new insect that we haven't seen much in Paul's work. We have the root system that's full of people, as if to underscore that incredible potency of nature, and the root systems themselves bursting forth in flower. It's a powerful work, and I think it speaks to the decades of development Paul has had and the tremendous advances he's made in his technical skills. And in a lot of ways, to think that it's only 40 years that separate that first and that second work is kind of astonishing, because the difference and the sophistication and the journey that he's been on is truly astonishing. And so finally, I just want to leave you with a detail from one of his works. This is just the skills in full flower of Paul Stankard, and the bee form, which I think is important for danger, but also because the bee travels from place to place and pollinates and spreads the life force throughout its travels. And I think Paul, in a lot of ways, with all of his teaching efforts, with his work here at Salem, with helping to start the conference, can be compared to the bee figure in many ways in terms of sharing all of that energy. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Paul, for your contribution.